This morning or this evening, depending on where you're located physically, I'm speaking with Chris Ducker, who is the president and CEO of the Live to Sell group of companies located in Cebu, Philippines. It is a virtual outsourcing company that specializes in virtual assistants for United States, Australian, and other corporations all across the world. And he's also the mastermind behind the Virtual Business Lifestyle blog, which is how I came to follow Chris. I subscribe to the blog and I read the comments and I watch the videos of the people that you get into and you speak with. So, Chris, welcome. Thank you for joining us, and it's good to finally meet you face to face.
And likewise as well, Carl. Thanks very much for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Why don't, if you could tell us a little bit about, I guess two things I would like to talk to you about. I'd like to talk to you about blogging, because your blog has been wildly successful. I looked on your Facebook page, and what do you have now, about 11 or 12,000 people there?
Yeah, it's pretty insane. It's just over 11,000 right now. And actually, we had a massive growth spurt over a period of a few months. So I'm still trying to figure out what I did. I'm not 100% sure, but
well, tell me, because I know nothing about Facebook as far as how to make it work.
No, honestly, the whole virtual business lifestyle thing, it's really just come about and as a complete shock to me, because when I started the blog in January 2010, I started it as a way to be able to kind of chart my own course that I had set. I set a goal for 2010 to become a virtual CEO, to basically remove myself from the office from a quote-unquote full-time basis.
I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, which I achieved. And, I'm at the office now probably no more than 10 hours a week. I pop in maybe twice. Funnily enough, you caught me here now, but I only come in about twice a week now for usually 4 or 5 hours at a time. But that's the reason why I set it up. And I thought, well, I'm going to set this thing up. I'm going to give a few tips and a few tactics out, a few how-to posts, and answer some burning questions in regards to outsourcing and virtual business and things like that. And it kind of just took off. It was a little stagnant, like most blogs are, for the first 6 months or so. And I had a kind of a core list of followers and subscribers. Then I launched my free virtual assistant ebook and audiobook set, which people can download for free at the site when they sign up, and that kind of catapulted it a little bit. And I saw a lot of retweets, a lot of Facebook likes, or back in them days shares, and it really just kind of just started to explode around it was around September, October last year. It really started kicking off, and that was when I was in Blog World in Vegas last year, and just being there and getting to meet a handful of guys that I'd already conversed with a little bit, either via Skype or through the blog and Twitter and things like that, kind of just fermented those relationships a little bit. Mm-hmm. And now the brand is, it's ridiculous. You're like 3,000 or 4,000 people download, every single episode of the podcast, but some of the biggest names online on there, and a lot more coming out. And if you'd have asked me, we were talking a little bit, before you hit the record button there, if you'd have asked me whether it would be where it is now a year ago, there's absolutely no way in the world I would have said yes. It's been quite humbling, actually, that such a big audience would be wanting to listen to me waffle on about everything,
Yeah, and I've seen some of your interviews, and some of the guys make you uncomfortable. I think in a little bit. The one stock picking guy was dropping F-bombs left and right, and you were a little hesitant to do so. I remember watching that one.
Well, everybody swears, right? We all drop the F-bomb here and there, but for me, I've said the word bullshit many times on the. Can we say that on this channel?
You sure can.
Well, I've done it anyway.
It's too late. There's no dump button.
Right. So, no, I've said the word bullshit on several occasions and, that sort of thing. But maybe it's just that I got a little bit of an old school approach to business, and I kind of feel, even in today's slightly more modern age entrepreneurial world, I just don't feel as if there's any real room in the business world for the F-bomb. I guess it's just my old school attitude on it. But when that was with Timothy Sipes, and he is very outspoken. He does. He drops F-bombs very, very regularly on his own channels and everybody else's for that matter. And I knew it when I asked him for the interview, but he's just got so much golden info to share. I figured, I'm just going to swallow it. And right at the top of the show, I said, now the chances are, there's going to be a few F-bombs here, right? And I think people kind of, like yourself, they kind of picked up on the fact that I was a tad concerned. But
that's all right. I found it amusing to look at the juxtaposition of the two different personalities there. But it seems like Virtual Business Lifestyle, you've tapped into something. It's funny, you said you just wanted to give tips and so forth, and I'm going to be completely selfish here because of the blog that I have, a smart blog for small business. I cater to small business people, but it's not about Virtual Business Lifestyle. It's about how to grow their business. But mine's in that early formation. I just started this thing in January, and now I've got a few hundred subscribers and so forth. And I want to hit that point of exponential growth when you hit that hockey stick. Like that you just described. You seem to have tapped into a vein. You were talking about giving tips and so forth, but you tapped into sort of this mindset of people who want to enjoy this lifestyle, me being one of them. I work from the house. I look out my window here. I got the water. I live on the water and things like that, which is beautiful. It's difficult to get away. It's tough to cut the umbilical cord that ties us to that sort of corporate world and the wild blue yonder of the unknown. Everybody would like to have that muse that you've got, that Tim Ferriss talks about, where you've got that business that's generating cash on the side. Some of us, like myself, make the decision to do this, and we don't have that business generating cash on the side. We need to make this business generate the cash. And
right.
Very curious to. What do you think that you did? You said to me before we started recording that it was sort of an accident. What do you think you did, the top couple of things that you did that made this blog so successful?
I think first and foremost, more than anything else, is I just decided a long time ago that if I was going to write content, okay, there's 3 different types of content available at the blog. There's written content, there's audio content, and then I do a lot of video as well. Mm-hmm. I'm more of a talker than a typer, and that's really what it comes down to. In fact, even the majority of my written blog posts, I dictate, give to my VA, she transcribes and sends back to me, or even puts them directly into WordPress. She started doing that about 3 months ago, and kind of bolding certain things and all that sort of stuff to help me save time as well. But I think first and foremost, more than anything else, I said to myself, I'm going to put content out there. It's got to be helpful. It doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly written. It doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly lit if it's video. But the content of that video and the content of that written post must be helpful, plain and simple. It's got to either solve a problem for someone, or it's got to maybe inspire somebody in some way. And really, that's what I go after above and beyond everything else. It's just trying to help people out. And I think that that's really been the number one reason why it's kind of ballooned and blossomed as much as it has as a kind of a standalone site. But the other things that it's done is that it's opened a lot of different doors for me as a business owner and as an entrepreneur as well that I didn't expect was going to happen when I started it. As I said, it came as a bit of a surprise in terms of the popularity of it. I mean, we're up to about 18,000, maybe 19,000 people a month read it now. And I really didn't expect that to happen. And sometimes still now when I look at, the reports that come through from my SEO guys every month, I'm like, what the hell? We had 2,000 people that day? It's weird. Still, it's strange to see those numbers. But what it's done from a business standpoint is that it has enabled my corporation, the Live to Sell Group, which is 250 employees and a big facility and all the rest of it here in the Philippines. It's enabled the Live to Sell Group to have a more personal feel to it, because pretty much all my clients read my blog, and I would say probably at least 50% of the people that come to us as prospective clients have read my blog, whether it's been directly through landing at the blog and then going to the corporate site or vice versa. So the people that I talk to when they come on board, or the people that we're already working with, they read the blog and they know my personality more. It's enabled me to work with them a lot more freely and a little bit more easy, kind of more of an easygoing approach to doing business as business partners. Because I always say, as a corporation, we're not just vendors, we're not service providers. We truly do partner with our clients in every sense of the word. And we're business partners. You know, we grow with our clients. As our clients get bigger, we get bigger. When we started 5 years ago, we had 7 members of staff. Now we're up to about 248 or something. So we've grown as our clients has grown. But, you know, from that corporate standpoint, it's given it more of a personal approach. But then also it's enabled me to start several other streams of income, like you mentioned in your question, where I've been able to make more money as an entrepreneur, not just as a business owner, but, you know, start additional businesses, put together certain resources, and there's going to be more of those coming in the coming months as well. So overall, it's been a very exciting experience. I didn't expect it to be as big as it has become, but it's certainly been a nice experience, and obviously I'm riding the wave for as long as it continues.
How did you...
an entrepreneur, you know?
Sure. Well, yeah, get your surfboard out. How did you... How do you get people to it? I mean, originally when you got there, I know you're putting great content out. I believe in the same thing. I have the same value. I try and put something out that solves a problem. You and I first connected on LinkedIn, and I happen to use that because some of my market is small business people, service firms, and things like that. People who traffic on LinkedIn. But I'm just curious as to how you find. I heard you said that your customers who come to you end up reading the blog, and I'm assuming conversely the blog can be a feeder for customers. People read the blog, get to know you, get to trust you, and the next thing you know, it's like, God, this outsourcing thing's great. I read this 40-page ebook, and yeah.
That exactly has happened a lot. And in fact, I've even called prospects. I do have my COO, who's an American guy, who's been in the business a long time. He also does a lot of the business development side of the business. But from time to time, I'll pick up the phone and I'll call people that have inquired myself. And when I say, hey, it's Chris Ducker calling from the Live to Sell group, and they said, oh, wow, I had no idea that you would be calling. That's great. I've watched your videos on your blog and blah, 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 blah. Happens quite a bit.
Well, that's good. That gives me faith and hope as I build the smart blog for small business that I'm trying to build, and it gives me hope that sooner or later that this thing's going to take off. I am picking up people granularly as it goes. And one technical question I did have for you. My blog is a WordPress blog, and it's in a site that also has services. You have a separate blog site and a separate site for Live to Sell. Is that the way you'd recommend going?
I guess it really depends on how focused you want to be on your blog, and whether you feel if the blog is really part of the business or not. Because for me, Virtual Business Lifestyle, when I started Virtual Business Lifestyle, it had absolutely nothing to do with the Live to Sell group, except for the fact that I mentioned that I was the owner and the CEO in my About page. That was it. Virtual Business Lifestyle, when it began, was about charting that course as a business owner to become that virtual CEO. That was what it was all about. So that was the way I set it up. I certainly did not want it to be part of the Live to Sell brand because it's too corporate. It's too much of a corporate brand, whereas this was very much a personal blog. But I mean, if the content that you personally are putting together for the Smart Blog is aimed towards nothing but helping small business owners, and that is what your company does, then it probably makes total sense to have the blog as part of the website, if not for any other reason, but from a Google standpoint, because Google will crawl the site and the domain, and everything will get picked up, and people will land on your blog pages, but then obviously will have access to all of your corporate services as well. So for me, the way you've got it set up currently is probably the best way for you, if that's the case.
That is the case, and I'm breathing a sigh of relief here that at least I'm doing that right, because I'm starting to learn. I'm learning a lot. I've read, click through to other people from your thing. John Chow, I've got his ebook. He's hilarious the way he describes himself.
And I love his tongue in cheek. I interviewed him, and he then embedded the video on his blog. and said, Chris from Virtual Business Lifestyle did an interview with me, and he's based in the Philippines, got an outsourcing company, a couple of hundred, blah 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 blah. And then he stuck something in right there in the paragraph, and I missed it the first time around that I read it, because I skim a lot online. And somebody actually emailed me and said, hey, I thought you and John were like buddies. Have you seen what he said on? And I was like, what? So I went back to the site, and he'd actually added a little line and stuff. So when Chris is not stealing jobs from Americans, he's blah 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 blah. But it wasn't it wasn't having a dig at me or anything. That's John's sense of humor. He's very tongue in cheek. And when I went back and read it, I just had to chuckle to myself, because I thought it was very amusing.
Well, he's dry as hell, and not that this is about John Chow, but his disclaimer policy is hilarious.
Yeah.
On his site.
That's worth the price of admission at johnchow.com. It really is, that one page.
Yeah, the disclaimer page it made me laugh out loud. Let's talk a little bit about outsourcing. You're an outsourcing expert. You have 250 employees. I have done some outsourcing in the past. I see it seems to work well for VAs, and I've used some on and off. What other types of outsourcing do you find that can be successful for, say, small business owners?
Well, I think the big one is telemarketing. Particularly if you're a business that's working with local businesses as well, like a lot of small businesses do, because telemarketing, unlike the more traditional forms of marketing, like print ads or classifieds or TV or radio or something along the direct marketing, that sort of stuff. What telemarketing enables you to do is get instant feedback. Because if you just say you take out a half-page advert in the local newspaper, you know that is going to be distributed to how many thousand people, but you don't really know how many people are actually going to see that advert. And off that, you don't know how many people that have seen that advert have actually acted on that advert. But what you get with telemarketing is that, let's say you make 100 phone calls and 50 people turn up and you speak to 50 people. You know out of that 50 people, percentage-wise, how many are interested in hearing what you've got to say and how many want you to, jump off a bridge somewhere, right? I mean, telemarketing has been around for decades, and it ain't going anywhere anytime soon when it comes to business drumming up of new clients and everything. So for me, telemarketing is huge. I think that it is nowadays probably one of the most overlooked forms of marketing, and sometimes it does have a little bit of a shady background on it, and people calling with scams and all that sort of stuff. But ultimately, it's still, for me personally, it's still the number one way to be able to drum up business for a small local business. I really feel that way very strongly. And not only but small businesses, but also bigger businesses, medium-sized businesses that want to be able to expand and grow a lot faster, that don't have any kind of geographical shackles on them in any way whatsoever. Let's say you're a web design company, for example. It doesn't matter where you are in the world or where your clients are in the world, you can get that job done for them. So really, it truly is a global economy for you at that point. And, if you're based out of New York, sure, you'll do business with people in New York, but you can also do business with people in Dallas and Florida and Chicago and anywhere else for that matter, England, Australia, the Philippines, whatever, right? It doesn't really matter. So telemarketing really gives you the opportunity, I think, to get in front of people a lot faster. Okay,
I've ventured into telemarketing. I must have had crappy products or so. I didn't do it very well, but it hasn't worked out so well for me so far on the telemarketing side. But I was just curious about other virtual services as well besides the sale. I guess if you get somebody who is a salesperson who can actually.
Okay, let me clarify what I mean by telemarketing. Because there's a difference here. And I think a lot of it comes down to personal opinions. And I've been involved in the telesales and the telemarketing industry my entire career, which is just about to hit 21 years. So that's why I have no hair left. Look, it's all gone.
I've been in business 22 years, and my wife says mine's getting thinner. I might as well shave the top of my head, too.
Look, the chicks dig it. Okay, the wife might not, but the rest of the chicks will dig it. Trust me. But the fact of the matter is this: telesales is when you're physically cold calling someone and trying to sell them something over the phone. It doesn't work a lot nowadays. The telemarketing is when you're calling someone, you're trying to kind of dig up a little interest. So, a lot of people might call it lead generation now. So, hey, Mr. Smith, have you got an internet site? Have you got a website? No. Oh, did you know that you could increase your, revenue in the next 12 to 18 months by just putting a very simple, 8 to 10 page website up for your business in the local community, blah, 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 blah. Oh, really? Oh, how do I do that? Well, if you like, I could have somebody give you a call and talk about it a little bit more. Are you free tomorrow at 1 or is 3 p.m. better? That's a lead generation telemarketing call. And that's basically the sort of thing that I'm talking about when I use the term telemarketing.
Sure.
And we do a lot of that here at Live to Sell. But, there's other things that you can outsource. Customer service, technical support, email support, chat support. If you've got a little chat box up on your website and you don't want to have to pay somebody in America, $5,000 a month to look after that, then you can use an outsourced member of staff for $1,200 a month to do that. What else is there? There's back office support, bookkeeping support, web development, social media management, content creation. There's a lot of different things that you can utilize outsourcing for now. And, a lot of people are now actually, they're not using the term outsourcing that much anymore. They're actually going to the more, using the word virtual a lot more. So virtual staff or virtual teams or virtual workforce, this sort of stuff. Because, unfortunately the term outsourcing has all these, weird, connotations with India and telemarketers that can't speak English properly and all this sort of stuff as well. So it's, as any other business or industry, things evolve, it is what it is.
Well, it's interesting. Perhaps you've contributed to that lexicon with the word virtual, with the VBL blog and so forth. Guys like you and Montero there with his virtual. Every other word out of his mouth is virtual.
Yeah, I should, Phil, if you're watching, I've copyrighted the word virtual, and I'm coming after you, buddy.
Good luck. I'll watch the smoke fly on that.
Right. No, you know what? Just like Phil, Phil is all about making your life easier, making your life more productive, but doing it in that virtual way. And I think Phil is probably right up there in the top, 3 or 4 guys online, maybe including myself. I'd like to think, including myself, that when it comes to virtual business, in general, that those are the kind of like the go-to guys that are kind of really not only helping people out, but, getting to the point where, you're kind of you're helping them take the business to the next level by removing some of it from the office, or, just simple things. I remember when I first, wanted to take my email out of Outlook and into the cloud with Gmail, Phil was the guy that walked me through it. He literally walked me through it over Skype online. And, that's why I call him my Mr. Miyagi of the cloud.
Yeah, he is. He's pushing me in that direction, too. I have not been able to cut off Outlook yet, but I probably will soon. I think this has been great. I appreciate the opportunity to meet you online and talk to you across multiple time zones in the Philippines. And I think you've shared some valuable information for us. I'd love to do it again sometime. And Phil and I are working on a project. Maybe get you talk to you a little bit about that once we roll that out. We're not quite there yet, like Corbin is. But do you have anything else that you'd like to add as far as small business people who read this blog? No,
not at all. I mean, I think, if anybody's interested in, hearing me, cackle on a little bit more about this stuff, they can just come over to blog and check me over at virtualbusinesslifestyle.com. If they haven't sort of got into utilizing outsourcing or virtual assistants quite yet as well, I do have that free ebook and audiobook resource which they can download at virtualassistantebook.com as well. But I think overall, what you're doing, Karl, and what, guys like Phil and I, we're kind of all in the same boat here. regardless of, the people that we're talking to or the people that are following us or whatever the case may be, it all comes down to one specification, and that is that we are entrepreneurs, we are business owners that do not want to be handcuffed to a desk or one particular location for any long periods of time, not just because it sucks, but mainly because it enables you to become a much better entrepreneur and a lot more productive entrepreneur as well, I find. So, we're all in the same boat. And, people always say, oh, no, competitors and, this, that, and the other. It's all BS because ultimately we can all learn from each other. And I'm more than happy to come back if you want to, chat again at some point in the future.
Yeah, I'd like to, and I've learned a lot just listening to you, and I really, again, I appreciate the time. I do look forward to speaking with you again. I'm going to keep following your blog at Virtual Business Lifestyle, and by the way, that ebook is called Saving the Day the Virtual Way, right? Is it still called that, or have you changed the name?
It is. No. It's still called Saving the Day the Virtual Way. It could have been penned by Phil Montero himself with a title like that, but I got there first.
Great. Hey, it's been fantastic. And if you'd like to, I will put this thing up on YouTube. And by the way, I just got my YouTube credentials for longer videos, so I must have arrived at something. I just secretly got my, I can do my longer YouTube. So I'll put this up on YouTube, and if you want to put it in your blog, that's great.
Yeah, no, I will do. I mean, they literally just turned out of nowhere and told me that, oh, congratulations, you can now put videos up, over 15 minutes live. And I was like, how did that happen? I've got no idea. That's the thing. They don't tell you how it happens. Originally, I did some research into it. Originally, you could only do that if you were like a partner or an investor in YouTube or something along those lines. But now they've opened it up. I think what it is, is videos have become more and more and more popular. That there are websites like vidler.com, vimeo.com, things like that were enabling you to be able to do stuff more or longer than 10 or 15 minutes without having to pay or upgrade or anything like that. So I figured if they kind of thought to themselves, well, if we don't do it now, we're going to get left behind with the guys that want to put that longer content online. I think that's probably was one of the major contributing factors. But no, you're right. They do. They literally just put a message up on the screen, right? Did you get an email?
No, it came on my screen. As soon as I got in there, it just told me you now. And if you looked at some of the videos before we chatted, I pointed you to some of the videos I have, and you'll see I have these 2- and 3-parters. Well, that was done in no small reason because I wanted to host the videos on YouTube, and I only had a 15-minute limit. This recording right here would have been probably put into 3 different videos if I didn't have that.
Did I see an interview with the author of Your Virtual Success? Is that right?
Alan Bloom, yeah.
That's right. I read that book. I don't know, like a year and a half ago, I think. I picked it up. I think I picked it up at Hong Kong Airport, of all places. For some reason that sticks out in my mind, but pretty good book, aimed more towards companies that are wanting to go virtual rather than starting virtual companies from scratch, right? But yeah. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good read. He certainly knows what he's talking about. That's for sure.
Yeah, he's a sort of a marketing specialist where he and I are partnered up on some different things as well. So he's a good guy to follow as well. It's been fantastic, and I will look forward to speaking with you again, Chris.
You got it. Absolutely, Carl. Let me know when this goes live, and I'll get a link out to everybody on it, okay?
I'll email it to you.
All righty.